Hello and welcome to Vitality, Women Leading Audaciously. Today we have an honored guest, Sharrarne Morton, and she is from Maryland, a state that I was born in. Very excited to have her here. I love Maryland. It's so beautiful. And she is a Sirius XM radio producer and host. And she's also coaching people on how to do this. And I'm really excited to have her on the show to hear her insights and wisdom as a mom, as a wife, and as an entrepreneur. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Yes.
Yay. So beautiful. For those of you who can't see her, she is magnificent. Just such a
Oh, thank
stunning woman
you.
with glowing skin and gorgeous hair.
Thank you.
Her
Thank you.
eyes are so bright. And so when we think of the word vitality, she epitomizes it. So
Oh, that's so kind of you. I have to admit, though, these are extensions. But still gorgeous hair.
love it. Well, so tell us a little bit about your story, how you became a host and a producer of a radio show on Sirius XM, and I'm just curious about your journey, your story. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, let me see if I can do this really quickly. I started as a major in broadcast journalism at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Always knew I wanted to go into radio and television, and actually hosted a radio show in college. Once I got out of school, I made a run for state senate, lost by very little, and then got asked to offer commentary on an ABC affiliate here in the Washington, Maryland area. And so I did some political commentary. It was only supposed to be a one-time thing. It ended up turning into 14 years. It was so much fun, so exciting. While I was doing it, I decided to open my own media company. And so I began to produce television shows and commercials, and ended up landing at Sirius XM Radio. Someone needed me to produce their show, and then they asked me to co-host for them, and I did that. And then I pitched a show to Sirius, and they greenlit it, and here I am. So I did that in less than a minute. I hope that answers your question.
That was amazing. And it's so interesting to hear those twists and turns.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we never really know where we're going to end up. We have some kind of idea of what we like to do, and then these opportunities present themselves. And it's just so interesting
Yeah.
how it all unfolds, isn't
It
it?
is so interesting. I never thought that I would land on television, even though I really worked hard at it. I was told, okay, you have to go down south to a small little town and work your way up. But actually, it just fell in my lap. It was a tremendous opportunity. And whenever opportunity knocks on my door, I've learned to answer it. And so after that, the show was canceled after 14 years, but then another opportunity fell in my lap. I have to also say that it had everything to do with who you know and who knows you. So the folks that, asked me to do these things, they knew me, they knew of me, I knew them, they liked me, they trusted me. So all of those things count, of course.
Yeah, building relationships and trust inside of those. Absolutely.
Yeah, networking, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's so interesting because I don't listen to Sirius XM,
Oh.
but a lot of people do, right? You said over 40 million people do.
Yeah.
And so I find that there are ever growing a number of channels to enjoy and to learn, whether it be Audible or YouTube, and how we're all consuming information and entertainment. And so I'm just curious why radio, and what you find is unique about radio, not only from the producer standpoint, but also kind of consumption standpoint.
Yeah, well, with SiriusXM, I really love it there because you can pretty much do and say anything you want. There's no censorship
I love that.
with SiriusXM. Yeah, and so whatever you want to dabble in, talk about, whatever the subject matter is for the day, whoever you want to have on, it's pretty much whatever you want to do. I really love that. I don't want to say that there are no rules, but there are no rigid rules. So I really love that about Sirius. Also, like you mentioned earlier, we have 46 million listeners nationwide, and it's ever growing. Sirius XM Radio comes in every new and used car. It's subscription based, but people seem to love it. There's so many channels. There's comedy, there's talk, there's, music, there's news. There's so much to choose from. So I think that's why we have so many listeners and why it's growing. And plus, they just merged with Pandora, so that's a great thing as well.
Huge.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So what are some of the shows that rise to the top that women tend to listen to? What are some of the ones that you think have been creative, innovative, and have made a difference?
I don't know the exact names of all of the shows because there are over 150 channels, and I like to just kind of push the buttons, and whoever's on that attracts my attention, that's who I listen to.
Yeah.
I know the comedy show, the comedy channel, excuse me, for me, offers so much relaxation because I'm just laughing, after I've had a hard day, I'm just giggling. Sometimes, depending on who it is, a lot of times it'll be Kevin Hart, and he just has me cracking up, like tears rolling down my eyes. And sometimes I need that because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And there are, I forget the doctor's name. She's a very well-known psychologist. She has her own show as well. She's been on for a number of years. Women really listen to her. I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. I'm curious because you're also a coach. And so I know a lot of women who are listening have brilliant ideas. They are innovators, some are experts in their field, and they're looking for more opportunities and more flexibility.
Yeah.
And it may have never crossed their mind that they might have the opportunity to have a show on Sirius XM or a show, period.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your coaching and how you help to kind of foster some of these ideas and talent towards that aim.
Yeah, well, I really like helping women, especially because I think our voices aren't being heard enough. I mean, there's always room for a woman's voice as far as I'm concerned. And so a lot of times, women who are speakers, or there's, what do I want to call them? Subject matter experts.
Yeah.
They're looking for a platform to share their information, to share opportunities, to share whatever it is that they have to help people. And so I try to provide that by coaching them and teaching them, how to actually be on a platform like SiriusXM. Okay, you may have a podcast, which is wonderful, but SiriusXM kind of springboards you onto another level.
Yeah.
And so I teach them how to produce an entire radio show, how to produce content for SiriusXM, how to produce commercials, how to do voiceovers, what music to select, how to write a script, which guests to invite. And then I have them on as a co-host. And it's kind of like throwing them right into the water after a couple of weeks of coaching. They come on the show with me and they co-host. And I see how they do. I make them responsible for that particular show. They have to choose the guest. They have to choose the script. They have to choose the questions. I'm kind of following their lead, following along. And that really tells me whether they're really serious about what they're doing, whether they're really good and good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the 3-month coaching session, if I think that they're really good and they can produce a show, which they should know how to do after those 12 weeks, then it's something that I take into consideration and pitch to SiriusXM to see if it's something they'd be interested in having on their channel.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, when I look at you, I think, well, boy, she's so beautiful. She could be on
Oh, thank you.
television, and they always say radio is for people who aren't particularly good looking. And I would say in this case, that's not true.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Well, and I trained my entire childhood to be a classical opera singer, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and every time I'm on one of the most frequent things people say about the podcast is like, "Wow, you have such a nice voice. I don't really
You
care what you're
do.
saying. Like, can I just still listen to you?" I think
You really have a nice voice. It's very soothing and calming.
that's what I hear. That's like the
Yeah.
top thing. So it's just interesting the worlds that we live in how the platforms, like you said, it's like everyone can have a podcast, but who's listening to your podcast?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
SiriusXM is subscriber based and censorship is
Right.
big.
Yes, it's really big. And so, and what we do, or what my producer does for me, is we take our shows that we tape for Sirius and then we repurpose them and upload them to the podcast. So they go out on Sirius XM, and then they go out on iTunes and Spotify and all of those podcast platforms as well. So it's really good because they kind of live on in perpetuity. And so
Mm,
the great thing about podcasting is it does kind of teach you how to, be on radio, because it really is sort of like that.
mhm.
But you're not necessarily getting the kind of audience unless you're just, this huge Hollywood star. Lots of them have their own podcasts and they have like a million downloads a week. The average person doesn't have that,
No.
those kinds of downloads.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Well, you're also a mother and a wife, as well as an entrepreneur. And it can be challenging to juggle it all. I'm sure you've had those moments. It sounds like your children are grown now.
they are.
So it's a little different dynamic. But what tools and methods do you use to try to strike that balance for all the roles and responsibilities that you have?
Well, let me say first that I have been an entrepreneur for about 12 years. So my adult children were children at that time. I was raising them, my husband and I. And it is not an easy feat, especially as a woman. My grandmother used to say, a man can work from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. I mean, how true is that, right?
Oh, true.
So it was really challenging. I was just very thankful that I didn't have to work like full time. A lot of entrepreneurs, they can't afford to quit their day jobs because the first few years, usually you're not going to make any money. It's really tough.
Mhm.
And so I was just very fortunate. I taught English at the local community college a couple of days a week. And the rest of the time I was raising my children and being a wife. Um, but I also had a very supportive family. It really does take a village when you are a parent, when you have children. So I
Yeah.
had family right here in the area. I had a great husband who was very supportive. So I was just very blessed, but I also had to take time for myself. And that meant going out to get my mani-pedis, and even
Mhm.
going to the gym helped me a lot. I like to go to spas and get massages. I
Mm.
like to hang out with my girlfriends and
Yeah.
just dance, before
Nice.
COVID. So
Yeah.
those were things that I did to kind of relax and decompress.
Nice. I love that. And I just want to mention, she said had a husband, but she's been married for 30.
31 years.
I mean,
It's
my
be
goodness.
32. Yeah, I have a husband. I'm sorry. He's
No,
still
it's like I just wanted to clarify for our listeners. I just have so much reverence and respect for women who can juggle it all and still stay married. Because
only,
oftentimes
yeah.
a lot of our listeners are, going on towards burnout, divorce, absentee parenting, and that's kind of what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. And this generation, our generation, is the first generation that we have taken on all of these demands with
Oh,
force.
well, let me tell you, it has not been easy. Being married is not easy. Anybody who has been married or is married knows that. I will also share that my husband and I, after 25 years of marriage, we separated for 8 years. And we are just getting back together last year. So, there's
Wow.
it's a challenge for everyone. I didn't see it coming, that we were going to get back together, but we did. We went into extensive marriage counseling. And so here we are, we're doing pretty well. But I mean, it takes work. It's a lot of work. I think it's a
Yeah,
little easier now that our kids are grown.
sure.
But it's hard for, I don't want anybody to think, oh, it's just me. I'm just having this hard time. It's everyone. And living with
Yeah.
another human being is not easy.
No, I love Esther Perel has this great uh, phrase that she uses, and she says, we're married 3 times in our lives, and maybe it's to the same person.
Right. Right. And while I was separated for those 8 years, I mean, I wanted to file for divorce. Every time I tried to file for divorce, something happened. Unfortunately, like my husband's mother passed away. So I couldn't serve him with divorce papers, and his mom had just passed. And the
Mm,
next time I tried, COVID came around. So there were some
mm.
things that happened that kept us from getting divorced. So I kind of thought, hey, maybe we should stay together. Maybe we should try this and work
Yeah.
on it. So
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. I love
Yeah.
knowing that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I love that you took the me time. A lot of women struggle to give themselves permission to do that. But I'm telling you, ladies who are listening, it is a life-saving act.
It really is. It really, and one of the other things that I forgot to mention is I really like and enjoy taking naps during the middle of the day. I mean, I have the kind of job where I can work from home, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm able to do that. I really need that. It gives me, gives me the vitality that I need to continue on. So I'll take a quick hour and a half nap in the middle of the day, and that just really helps me.
So when you're feeling tired, that's what we see. If we were looking from the outside in, we'd see you taking a little cat
You
nap.
would a little siesta. Lots of countries do it. We're the only ones that don't. And it really helps to revitalize you. It really does, at least for
It's so
me.
true. It's so true. I lived in Switzerland for 10 years. That's where my
Uh-huh.
daughter was born. And I remember when I first moved there and everything's closed after lunch. And I
Right.
used to get so frustrated. I'm like, how can anyone get anything done in this country? But then after a few years, I started to really embrace it. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
lovely.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I wish more of us would embrace it because it really
Yeah.
does help. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly I don't. But I do go to bed early. I'm one of
Me
those
too.
people. Yeah, I do. Although there are some new dance classes that I'd like to take advantage of, and the dances start like at 9. So I'm gonna have to
Ah.
my sleep then.
Yeah, I wake up early, so I go to bed early. And as I get older, I realize I can't like wake up early and stay up until, 11, 12 at night. But I'm in bed early and I try to get at least 7 hours of sleep. It's really
Yeah.
important for me.
Me
Yeah.
too, me too. But folks, if you can see this woman, I mean, she doesn't look a day over 30. And here
Oh,
she's been
thank
married for
you.
30 years. I mean, and her children are
Thank
almost
you.
30.
Yes, thank you. I'm 56. I'll be 57. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So great.
Thank
So we're
you.
hearing you clearly. Cat naps, adequate sleep,
Yeah.
exercise,
Massages, mani-pedis, things
have some
that make
fun
you
with your
feel good. Yeah. And good
girlfriends.
sex helps. Good sex helps too.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because people don't speak about it enough. It's like
I
this
don't know
hush hush
why.
thing.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean,
I
for
think,
me anyway. Everybody's different, but
I think it's important for everyone that everyone's willing to admit it. I think there's something hormonal that's happening. I think there's all these layers of health that get satisfied
yeah. Yeah.
when there's really good, healthy, committed, sexual relations.
Completely. Yeah. Those endorphins are released. They make you feel good, make you feel happy. I mean, yeah, everybody needs to have some.
Yeah, and for me, the relationship and even the sexual part of it is also it's about God, and
Yes.
not everyone's really willing not everyone's on the same page with that, and I get it. But for me, it's about something much larger than myself.
Yes, much higher than us. That's so true. I mean, it's natural. That's the only way we got here. So
Right,
it's
right.
really important. I remember having a friend who mentioned that she doesn't touch her husband and she was wondering why he was in such a bad mood all of the time. I said, because you don't touch him. Of course. I mean, it's like if you have a puppy or a baby and you don't touch them, they're going to wither away.
Yeah, they're
So
going to
yeah,
perish. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. That's so
yeah.
interesting. Well, I know I really appreciate you're actually the first guest out of about 50 that has mentioned that. And I
Oh,
really, really want to honor it and appreciate it because
thank you.
it's key. Actually, I thought about writing a book once. If we think about kind of what attracts headlines, and I get shocked because when I go onto Instagram, sometimes I see things and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Right,
that was a lot of skin, and
right,
I'm so
right.
traditional in my values. I'll admit it. I'm very modern in a lot of ways, but I was just thinking about, sex and, um, F in our way to good health, right? That was
Right. I
one thing
love that.
that I
I
was
love
thinking about as a title for a
that.
book because it's like it's so important. But
It really is. And
yeah.
more people need to understand that. So please write that book. And if you need a foreword or you need a chapter, I'd be happy to write it for you.
Thank
Coming
you.
from a woman who's been married forever to the same man and the different things you have to think about to keep things fresh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like a fun conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So how can people find out more about your coaching program and your work?
Oh, yeah, they can go to my website, sharrannemorton.com. Hopefully you'll put it up because
Oh yeah, it'll be in
my
the show
first name.
notes.
Oh, great. Yeah, my name is crazy, all of the letters, but it's sharrannemorton.com and they can reach out to me or they can email me, which is Shar, SHAR at sharrannemorton.com. And I'd be happy to talk to them and see what they're interested in doing. If I can help them, you can't just pop on radio. You really have to have a personality because people can't see you. So they
Right.
hear you. You have to be bubbly. There's so many things that go into it. So if I can help the person, I'm certainly open to doing that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice. Lovely.
Thank
Well, thank you
you.
so much.
My
Any last
lipstick.
words of wisdom for the listeners today?
I would say just enjoy life. Don't work yourself to death. I mean, life is so precious. It's so short. I've lost a number of people in the last year or two with COVID. I almost lost my life having COVID. And so
Wow.
I've learned that it's really important to take time for yourself and just honor yourself and however that means or however that looks to you. It's really important.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, very wise words. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Ron.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.